Hi, Chris Perry.
Hi.
How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm very well, thank you.
Okay, you're from Kaleidoscope.
Yes, that's right.
You do great work. I love what you do. How did you start up?
Well, we've been going about 20 years now. It's quite a family concern in the sense that we all went to school together, funnily enough, and we all ended up in a pub in Liverpool one day about 20 years ago. And we realised that there wasn't enough archive telly on telly nowadays, and in those days you couldn't get things like DVDs, and there wasn't UK Gold. So we started the organisation Kaleidoscope to try and promote classic British television, and it's just kind of grown and grown, really, Alex. It's huge nowadays. It has to be said.
So now people come to you and say, "Hey, I found some footage," or "Can you find some footage of?"
Well, that's kind of developed certainly over the years. We started off just doing events. We're a voluntary group. There's no money involved in what we do, believe it or not. And we started doing these events about 20 years ago. We've been doing them now for the Royal National Lifeboat Institute for many, many years and raised over £15,000, which is good. And then out of that, the kind of people who used to come to the events became more and more professional, a lot of people who work in the industry, and they would say to us, what about this and what about that? And we started doing books then as well, research books about the programmes we actually showed. And it's kind of grown, and because it culminated about 2 years ago now with a call from the Bob Monkhouse estate actually saying to us, would you like to store it and catalogue it for us because Bob's died, and we really have no idea at all what's important here and what isn't.
Right, okay, before we get on to Bob, have ITV and the BBC been kind and supportive, or has that been kind of a long road and now they are, because they kind of need you as much as you need them?
No, it's been fantastic, actually. That ITV was certainly the more supportive in the early days, kind of going back 20 years or so, and what was quite nice about ITV in those days was they often kind of put the kind of apprenticeships people kind of onto our case to help us with the cataloguing of the archives and things like that. And those people who started 20 years ago now as a kind of T-boy 20 years ago are now very senior within ITV.
I see.
So when it comes to people right on the very kind of top sixth floor, we know 3 or 4 of them really well. That makes it very easy. In recent years, the BBC has been fantastic as well, and we have a really good relationship now with the BBC Light Entertainment Department run by Caroline Wright, and we do a lot of research and consultancy work for them, you know, in all their programmes. I mean, we did the Bob Monkhouse one this Christmas. We also did some work on the Good Life one and the Ronnie Corbett one as well, you know, so we help out where we can.
Right, okay, well, let's talk about Bob Monkhouse. The collection that Bob has left, and of course it was in his home, and then his widow Jackie sadly passed on. I guess then his daughter Abigail Williams had this huge collection, didn't know what to do with it. First of all, one would imagine it is worth a small fortune to ITV and to BBC, just as a collection of stuff that they've let go.
I don't know whether it's worth a small fortune or not in that sense of the word. It costs enough to store, so that's certainly true. It was one of those amazing kind of cases of serendipity, really. Abigail didn't know who to go to, where to go to try and make the best use of this collection. She went to the National Film Archive, and they kind of came in, and they were completely overwhelmed by it, and realised it was probably a little bit outside their expertise to take something as huge as that. I mean, it's not just the tapes and the films, it's also the scripts, you know, and all the kind of material that goes with it. So they actually rang us and asked us to go down, and we kind of went down for an initial look and realised very quickly it would take a lot of work. So we spent a good 9 months just taking it away, cataloguing it, and the radio collection is probably the most valuable part of it, believe it or not, because that's probably the biggest amount of missing material, all the way back to 1948, you know, all the great work of Arthur Askey, Tony Hancock, Frankie Howard, you know, Bob himself, and Dennis Goodwin, his partner at the time, Charlie Chester, Richard Murdoch, I mean, you name it. We found early editions of Hancock's Half Hour in there, and Much Binding in the Marsh, Round the Horn. Those are all things that BBC Audio are certainly very interested in now releasing. You know, we've also found stuff like audio soundtracks too, not only, but also that there again, BBC Audio very interested in releasing that now.
Well, and so this money could actually help Abigail out, I guess, in the future if she's given the BBC the permission, or do they not need the permission because it's their stuff anyway?
Well, I mean, copyright-wise, it's not as if they're buying it off her copyright-wise. The BBC does own the copyright, obviously, on their own material, but there's sometimes a kind of access fee required, because certainly in terms of the storing and the restoring of a lot of the footage, it's taken us quite a lot of work to actually bring it back up to looking as good as it was on the telly. I mean, some of our guys from companies like Celtic Films and Farcical Films, who do a lot of our work for us, has spent hours and hours and hours going through doing some of these restorations. So it wasn't unreasonable for the Monkhouse estate to ask the BBC for a kind of contribution towards those costs. So, but you're quite right in terms of the actual copyright. I mean, it hasn't cost the BBC a lot to use the archive in that sense of the word, because they do own that already.
All right. Well, it's very, very exciting for you. It must have been like finding buried treasure going into Aladdin's cave. What interests me, Chris, is that when you take a programme like, and not necessarily just from the Monkhouse estate, a Crackerjack or a Rolf Harris show or a Lulu show or a Golden Shot in Bob's case, it's the little nuggets that are buried away in there. Maybe Mark Bolan and T-Rex making an appearance or something like that. Is there lots of buried treasure from the comedy and pop music appearances in these shows, or haven't you had a chance to watch many of them yet?
There's huge amounts of material. I mean, obviously, what you saw on the programme on BBC4 last Monday night, it barely scratches the archive. A lot of what you didn't see is all the unedited studio recordings that Bob had kept, and all the kind of behind-the-scenes chat, so people like Paul O'Grady, Diana Dawes, Alfred Marks, Spike Milligan, all the stuff they got up to off camera, that's all in the archive still, and still there, because some of that was probably, I suppose, a bit too difficult to clear to actually show on TV. I mean, you didn't really see some of the great kind of Rod Hull and Emu on the Golden Shot back in 1974, which was fantastic. You didn't see the Screaming Lord Such Jack the Ripper promo film that we found, which is apparently very rare, I've since been told. You didn't actually see, I mean, one of the things that we didn't see, which is a piece of hardware, is a 28mm film projector. There's only something like 2 or 3 in the whole country, and Bob had one that was still working. And I'd have loved to have kind of squeezed that into the programme somewhere, but they couldn't quite find it.
But there must be,
angle.
I mean, everybody I have spoken to who've seen it absolutely adored it. So congratulations to you and to the magnificent BBC4. I can never sing their praises enough. It's just a channel to die for. There must be so much more. We're not just going to get a 90-minute documentary and leave it at that, are we?
No, I really hope not. I mean, like I said, the estate has been and is talking to BBC Audio about releasing quite a lot of it on audio, the radio stuff. I know companies like Network DVD are already looking at licensing some of the TV stuff as well. So I certainly think over the next 5 years, you're going to see an awful lot more of it out there in the public domain. I mean, that's what Kaleidoscope was started for, really. We're a group that wants people to appreciate this stuff, wants people to really see it and enjoy it, and there's so much of it that you're never going to get the BBC to probably repeat a lot of it, on BBC4 or BBC2, but certainly we can get it out on DVD out there, we can, and get it out on CD.
Okay, is there much more, do you think, to find? I mean, I know little scraps are always going to turn up here and there, but do you think there are many more treasure troves out there when maybe some old BBC cameraman pops his clogs, or maybe a big producer at LWT?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the stuff comes in all the time. It does. It's always turning up. 2 weeks ago, we found a missing Top of the Pops from 1976.
No.
Yes, absolutely.
Who had that?
Well, interestingly enough, it was for sale on eBay, of all places. And 9 times out of 10, when old tapes turn up for sale on eBay, they are just junk, and it's a waste of money. But in that particular case, there happened to be a missing Top of the Pops on there.
Now then, how's about that then?
Absolutely.
Well, look, Chris,
a Noel Edmonds edition.
Oh, well, I can't do Noel Edmonds. I can't do Jimmy Savile very well. Listen, whereabouts in the country are you now? Are you in Liverpool?
No, we're based in Starbridge in the West Midlands, we are.
All right, well, get listening online, because in the next hour of our show, The Big Hour, we've got an ex-BBC guy, just purely by chance, called Philip. It was his job to press the button at BBC TV Centre to bring us the magic roundabout in the 70s, and I know he's kept some stuff, and he'll be talking about it on air.
Great.
So make sure you're listening online, and let's keep in touch, because I think what you do is wonderful. It's Kaleidoscope. It's www.kaleidoscope.org.uk.
That's it. And can I say that if you do think you've got a piece of missing TV as well, if you go to www.lostshows.com, you can look it up there and see if it's missing or not.
All right, well, let's stay in touch, and lovely to talk to you, Chris.
Great.
Thank you very much. That's Chris Perry from Kaleidoscope.